When you start hunting for a Hollowbody electric, the first thing you hear is a warning: don't go cheap, those cheapies fall apart after a few gigs. I've been there, walking out of a music store with a budget model that sounded fine on the showroom floor, only to discover a buzzkill dead spot in the neck after the first month of playing. The fear of repeating that mistake makes the decision feel a lot heavier than it should. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. In this video I'm going to walk through whether the Ibanez GB10SE George Benson signature lives up to the hype or if it's just another pretty-looking piece that will leave you wondering why you didn't go the ultra-budget route. First off, let's talk about the kind of player who actually benefits from a guitar like this. The GB10SE is a true Hollowbody with a spruce top, maple back and sides, and an ebony fingerboard. That combination is something you normally see on higher-priced jazz or boutique blues instruments. If you sit in a small club, play a lot of clean chord melody work, or you're looking to add that warm, airy resonance to a rock ballad, this guitar gives you a tonal palette that solid-body guitars just can't match. On the flip side, if you're a hard rock shredding fan who lives on high gain and aggressive attack, the natural feedback tendencies of a Hollowbody can become a nuisance, especially on stage with loud monitors. One of the practical strengths I've seen in real-world use is the way the two Ibanez humbuckers sit in the body. Because they're mounted directly into the maple sides, you get a surprisingly balanced output. In a studio setting, I recorded a clean jazz chord progression and the humbuckers captured the subtle overtones of the spruce top without sounding muddy. When I cranked a modest amount of overdrive for a blues solo, the pickup blend held its shape, offering a creamy sustain that's harder to achieve with single coils in a similar price range. This makes the GB10SE a genuinely versatile instrument for gigging players who need to switch genres on the fly. Now, every guitar has its trade-offs, and the GB10SE is no exception. The hollow construction that gives it that rich, resonant character also means it can be more prone to feedback at high volumes. I tested it at a local coffee shop with a modest PA system, and while it sang beautifully at low to medium levels, pushing the amp past 70% introduced a slight whine that required careful positioning of the mic and a bit of gain tweaking. If you regularly play in large venues or rely on high-gain tones, you might need a feedback suppressor pedal or a strategically placed sound hole cover. That's not a deal-breaker, but it's a hidden cost in terms of setup time and extra gear. Another point that matters is the neck feel. The maple neck is fairly slim, which is great for players with smaller hands or those who like fast chord changes. The ebony fingerboard adds a slick surface that lets your fingers glide without digging in, an advantage when you're playing long, sustained lines. However, the neck joint is set at the 12-inch point, which means the upper bout is a bit larger than you'd see on a traditional thin-line Hollowbody. If you're used to a super thin body for easy upper fret access, you might find the GB10SE a tad bulky when reaching for those high notes. It's not a problem for rhythm work, but soloists who spend a lot of time up the neck should give it a try in the store before committing. Let's address the price-to-value equation, which is often the crux of the decision. At its current price point, the GB10SE sits comfortably below many boutique Hollowbodies that feature similar tonewoods. You're essentially getting a spruce top and maple back that you would otherwise pay a premium for, plus the signature George Benson aesthetic that includes a glossy brown sunburst finish and subtle branding. The real value comes from the fact that the instrument doesn't feel like a stripped-down version of a more expensive model, it feels complete. For a gigging musician who wants a credible jazz or blues voice without breaking the bank, the GB10SE offers a solid return on investment. Who should walk away? If you're a beginner who's still figuring out which style you love, you might want a more straightforward solid-body guitar that's less finicky about feedback and easier on a tight budget. Also, if you're hunting for a heavy metal instrument that will sit well under a high-gain amp for long set lists, the inherent resonance of a Hollowbody could actually work against you, making the GB10SE an unnecessary compromise. Those players will likely get more satisfaction from a solid body with active pickups designed for tight, aggressive tones. On the other hand, if you're a semi-pro or a hobbyist who already knows you want that warm, open sound for jazz standards, soul ballads, or clean-tone rock, the GB10SE fits right into your arsenal. It also makes sense for studio musicians who need an instrument that can sit behind a condenser mic.